In the last 6 videos, we refactored our Hello React application to use Webpack. And Webpack is going to let us break our files into multiple files with little modules that we can require exactly when they're needed. Like right here, we require the greeter module because we need it to render to the screen. If you don't need a module, you don't have to require it, and this is just going to create more maintainable, testable code. Now, all of this is great, but it's also very repetitive. As we create new projects, we're going to have to rebuild the same Webpack config file. So what I want to do in this video is create a boilerplate project that we can use to start up all of our applications. There's no need to retype out this module loader every time you want to start a new project. So to kick things off, over in the desktop, I'm going to copy the Hello React folder, paste it, and I'm going to rename this folder React Boilerplate. And all we're going to do in here is go through the file, removing everything specific to Hello React and leaving all the generic stuff like Webpack, the server, and the public folder. So to kick things off, I'm going to close Atom because right now it's in the Hello React folder. And I'm going to open up on my desktop our new React Boilerplate project. And the first thing we're going to do is make a few changes to Webpack config.js. Right off the bat, you can remove all of the aliases we defined. These are all specific to the greeter application, and they're not going to be useful in a boilerplate project. The next thing I want to do inside of the public folder is change where the components and app.jsx folder live. app.jsx file. Right now, all of these files are served to the browser because they're in the public folder, but they don't need to be because in the end, all of it is bundled into bundle.js. To clean this up, I'm going to make a new folder in the root of React Boilerplate and call it app. I'm going to move the components folder as well as the app.jsx file into the new app folder, and this is where we're going to store all of our raw files. In this case, our JSX files before they get passed through Bundler. Now, inside of Webpack config.js, all we need to do is change the entry point of Webpack. And remember, the entry point is where Webpack starts compiling the bundle file. It's the first file it looks in to look for which modules and components are going to be required, and if those ones are required, then they're put into bundle.js. So we can change the public folder to the app folder, and that is all we need to do. We still want to keep the output file name in the public folder because the bundle file is used by the browser inside of index.html, so we want to make sure we keep it in the public folder. Now with this file all cleaned up for the boilerplate, we can move on. Our server.js file has nothing specific, so we can skip that. Inside of package.json, I'm going to change the name attribute to boilerplate. And there are some specific conventions about valid package names. Make sure not to use spaces or capital letters. You might get some errors when you try to install new modules if you have an invalid name. In this case though, boilerplate with a lowercase b is fine, so I'm going to save the file and close them. Next up, inside of index.html, everything's pretty cleaned up. There's nothing specific to the greeter app. This is ready for boilerplate. Bundle.js can stay around for now since that's automatically generated. Inside of app.jsx, I'm going to remove the first name and greeter variables since they won't be needed in a boilerplate project. And instead of rendering the greeter component, I'm simply going to render an h1 that says boilerplate app. That's just going to make sure we can confirm that our boilerplate is still working, even though we've removed all of the greeter functionality. The next thing to do is delete the 3 files we have in the components folder. These are all specific to our greeter application, and there's no need to keep them around in our boilerplate project. I am going to leave the folder around though, because we are going to be putting all of our future components into that components folder. And with this in place, we are done. Before I wrap the video up, I do want to test out the boilerplate to make sure it's working. Inside of the terminal, I'm going to type cd react boilerplate. And inside of the React boilerplate folder, I'm going to run Webpack just to make sure everything is still working. It looks like it's fine. I'm going to test it by running node server.js and opening up localhost 3000 in the browser. And right here, you can see a boilerplate app prints to the screen. Very cool. Now we have a little bit of code that we can reuse every time we start a new app. There's no need to recreate these folders and directories and the kind of long Webpack config file. That's all for this video, and that is all for this section. As you can see, Webpack makes React apps easier to create and use. We also have our really cool boilerplate project that we can use inside of the rest of this course to start our new applications, and we'll be doing that in the next section. We're going to kick off the next section by copying our boilerplate, and then we're going to get started looking at new features and functionality available in React as we build a very cool new application. I'll see you next time.